Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to episode 2 of I Want Alpha. I think that's what I'm calling it this week. I am Dr. Barmitzvah, and today I'm going to be talking about something that doesn't even require me to undock my ship, but everyone should know it. Lingo. All the little words, terms, analogies, acronyms, things of that such that we use in EVE Online that drive everyone nuts because they don't know what the fuck we're talking about. It's basically a whole other language. Last time I realized in my first episode that the quality was potato, and my image, my little picture down here, was covering up the probe scanner a little bit. You couldn't see the results. So real quick, I'm just going to show you what that looks like without my face blocking it, because I don't want anybody to be confused. That's the point of this video, is to end confusion, help people get through that. See, right here is my probe scanner, and I will have it on a different tab. It's the one you open by doing that. And when that opens up, you see all this moon analysis. I don't care what the moon's. And let me actually take a peek here and see if it looks like. Yeah, now you can actually see it. So now you can actually see that, like, the little results come up there. The green ones you can warp to. The other ones you have to use probes to get to. It's a special item that comes from a special launcher you put in your high slot, and the probes go out and they find those little signatures that are at 0% on the right there. You see a signal right above my head. Right up there, there's a little 0%, and right here. So, yep, that's just, I just wanted to go over that real quick. All the little novices and smalls will be green, and you'll be able to work to those at all times. Alright, so getting into lingo. I'll just go start hammering in the list. The first one is pod. Your pod is your capsule. If I leave my ship, which I'll do here in a second when I get to dock, I'll be in a little capsule, also known as a pod. They call us pod pilots, capsuleers, whatever. So I'm going to right click and leave ship, hop out of my trusty Tristan, and voila, there's my pod. And all this little slayer can do is warp and descan. That's all about it. But if you die in this, if my ship explodes in space and I'm in this pod, and then someone shoots this and it blows up and my little body's out there, and then I spawn at my home station, that is being potted. Being in this is not being potted. Being potted is when your pod explodes and your little body dies and you go to a new clone. A pod express is when my ship dies and I have no implant, so I don't care if my pod dies, and I just say to the guy who killed me, and I just sit there. Instead of warping my pod off, I say, hey, pod express, in local, and usually they'll go, okay, and they'll shoot my pod, and then I'll instantly spawn back at my home station so I can get another ship quicker. That's pod express. Plex. Plex is a confusing one. There's a lot of words in EVE that have 2 or 3 meanings depending on context. The first Plex we'll talk about is right there, a 30-day pilot extension. Pilot license extension, Plex. They're about 1.2 billion, and you buy them in order to get another month of EVE Online. Or full access, I should say. It's going to be alpha soon. A Plex tank is when you go in a crappy ship, or whatever ship, untanked frigate, like my Tristan with no mods on it, and you have Plex in the cargo hold. Your only tank is those billion-esque items. So some wonderful guy will see you in high sec with your Velator with 10 Plex in the cargo hold, and he'll go, my tornado costs about 80 mil fit. If I shoot that, it might drop 10 billion ISK. Worth the risk. So they'll pop your pod, or your Velator, or whatever the fuck you have your Plex in, and the police will come and avenge you and blow up his tornado. Meanwhile, on his other account, he scoops up the cargo you dropped and gets billions of ISK for suicide ganking you in high sec. And that's what a gank is. A gank is just killing somebody, setting somebody up. A suicide gank is doing it in high sec without legal cause, to where the police are going to come and fuck you up. Concord. You get concorded because you shot someone illegally in high sec. And yeah, that's. The other Plex is, like I was talking about in the first video, the little faction warfare videos. They'll say, like, go do a Plex. and that's just saying go into a novice or a small and run down the timer. That's in context of faction warfare. So those are the two kinds of plexes we probably hear. What's this one? Jump or... I don't get it. Oh, okay, well, we'll talk about that. Jump or warp. Just a difference between those. When somebody says like warp to something, that's in your system. It's around the same star as you, right? You're in a system, and there's planets and asteroids and stations and moons. And when someone says warp to this or warp to me, that means it's within the system. If somebody says jump means going into another system. However, there's also jumping is going from star to star. When somebody lights a Sino, they're jumping from several systems to that Sino, like a jump freighter. So one ship lights a Sino, and that freighter can hop several systems to it without taking gates. That's another kind of jump. And when you're at a gate and your fleet reaches the gate to the next system and you're all holding, the FC will also say jump, jump, jump. That means jump into the next system. And there's the big joke is, did he, like he'll say don't jump, and people go, did he say jump? And they'll hit the button. It's an old Eve joke. Then there's, I'll start crossing these off as I go. Got a whole list of things. Jams and damps. That's an E-war. There's also TDs, which is tracking disruptors, and painters, webs, which slow you down. Painters just increase your sig, make your hitbox easier to hit. Jams and damps, though, someone says I'm jammed, that means they got an E-war module used on them. There's ships that are bonused for jams, like Griffins, Kitsunes, Blackbird. Oh, hang on one second. Alright, give me a minute, I'll come back. Oh, sorry, someone was on my team speak. I thought it was just telling me we'll be right back. So, the jam, when you're jammed, you can't lock anything. Essentially, your ship is a flying brick. If your drones are already out attacking something, they will continue to do so. And if they're on aggressive, they'll find targets that are within range. But it sucks being jammed. Everyone complains about it because it is a horrible mechanic. Damp is just when someone damps you, it can do one of two things or both, depending on if it's scripted one way or the other. There's scripts. You can load a little charge, and it will either greatly decrease your locking range, or it will... That looks really weird the way my pod is moving. Or it will greatly increase the time it takes you to lock a target. You can put a script for one or the other, or you can put no script and it'll do a little bit of both. If you hear someone say a scepter or an inti, that is just an interceptor. People like to shorten things, and an interceptor is a Tech 2 frigate, such as a Stiletto, a Claw, those are the Minotaur ones, Malediction, a Raptor. There's 8 of them. I think each race has 2, a tanky one and a point range bonus one, the interceptors. A faction, when people say factions, like faction warfare, there's Caldari, Minmatar, Amar, and Galente. The Galente and the Caldari hate each other, and the Amar and the Minmatar hate each other, and they have faction warfare zones where they fight each other. The Amar and the Caldari are allies, and the Galente and the Minmatar are allies. So anybody in the other two factions that you're not friends with are your enemies in faction warfare. But also the factions, like the Empire, is split into 4 factions. It kind of explains it when you very first start the game. But there's also pirate factions, and when people say like a faction frigate, that means like there's a Tech 1 version basically of a Rifter. It's called a Firetail. And there's like, every race has these. There's Fed Navy Comet is the Galente one. It's bonus for hybrid guns. And there's the Imperial Navy Slicer that's bonus for like small pulse laser range, or small laser range. It's very, very fast. They're all very fast, all the faction frigates. And there's also pirate faction frigates like the Dramiel. Now typically a faction frigate will be like 15, 20 mil. A pirate faction frigate would be like 60 mil. I haven't looked at the price in a while, but it's a lot more. And that's when people say factions, that's what they're talking about, the different NPC groups in the game, whether they be pirate or Empire. Empire, when people say Empire, they mean high sec. I mean, low sec technically is part of the empires, but generally when most people say empire, I think they're talking about like high sec space or just non-null sec space. It's not wormholes, it's not null sec, it's empire space. A Sino is, I talked about a little bit before, but a Sino is just a little item you put on your high slot on a ship, and you light it. It's a beacon, and when that beacon lights, everyone can see it in their overview and warp to it. But what it's for is so that someone else in your fleet can jump from another system, like a jump freighter we were talking about. They can come from several systems over, and it goes by, the distance goes by like light years in a circle from where you are on the map. So it could be 5 systems, it could be 20 if the systems are close to you. How many jumps you're avoiding. It's by distance on the map, not by how many jumps. DCU, you'll hear that one a lot. That's a damage control unit. It's pretty much almost every frig fit uses. Almost every fit uses it. It's a very, very common item because it gives huge bonuses that don't take stacking penalties, and it bonuses your shield, armor, and structure with resists. So it's a very, very good item, and if your ship doesn't have it on it, you probably should have a really good reason why it's not there. Because it will give you a ton of health. It doesn't use hardly any cap, and it's cheap. Desi, if you hear Desi, that's just the name for a destroyer. It's the class of ship one up from frigates. Let's see, more lingo. Where are we going? MWD, prop, burn. And MWD is a micro warp drive. There's also afterburners, which are also, these are prop propulsion mods, or prop mod, or your prop. Like a prop on a plane. It's their propulsion. It's the propellers on a plane, but in the EVE context, MWD gives you a 500% speed boost. It also boosts your hitbox or SIG, your signature, 500% as well. Burn means to turn on your prop mod, whether it's an MWD or an afterburner, an AB. The FC, the fleet commander, says burn. He means turn that motherfucker on. He's probably already told you some direction you should be going. So, micro warp drive, propulsion, or prop mod is what it's called. Turn on your prop. Burn, burn, burn means turn on your prop, and your MWD or your AB, whatever you happen to have. And FC is fleet commander. Knock that off the list. All right. Pew pew is just the noise that guns make. So people say, "Let's go find some pew pew." It means let's go fight. Let's go shoot. Yellow box just means someone's locking you. Someone is on the grid a few kilometers away, and you start seeing that little blinky yellow box. They're yellow boxing me. It means they're locking me. It means all you're saying is they may attack me. They are interested, whatever. Red box is when they have actually attacked you. It's very, very important you're clear about this, so that when you say to the FC, "I've been red boxed," he knows that person has attacked you and can now not use a gate. The gates do not let you jump from the system if you just shot at someone. So the red box is very important. Let's see. NPC means I might be wrong. It's non-player character. It means it's a computer character, AI-driven character. NPC. So they say NPC space. They're generally talking about the parts of nullsec where it's not Empire, but you can't claim the space like the rest of nullsec, where you can put your little flag up and it says your corp's name in the corner or your alliance or whatever. OPSEC is operational security. It just means secrets. And if someone starts talking about something in an open channel they shouldn't, you say OPSEC. It's like, shut the fuck up, because you're saying this publicly and you shouldn't. Operational security. You don't want people to know what you're going to do before you do it. Slow boat means no prop mod. We were talking about the turn on your prop mod. If you don't turn on your prop mod, you are slow boating. So the FC like scrammed, he'll say, "We'll just try to slow boat away from him." It just means point your ship away from the guy scramming you and try to drift away. If he's not paying attention, you might get out of scram range and be able to turn your prop on and pull more range. Slow boat just means to turn your ship that way and go as fast as your base speed lets you. Alpha just means how much damage you do in one volley. Missiles and arties tend to have a very high alpha, and they fire less often. It's probably the best way to put it. GF is good fight. People give you a GF in local, that means thanks for the fight. It's nice to have other people to play with. If you don't have people to shoot, you'll be bored as fuck. We already talked about being potted. Grid is just the stuff that's I talked about in the other video too. The first video, I'll just rehash it. Grid is just what's within 5 or 10,000 kilometers of you. You can see it in space. You see little icons flying around. You can see their speed and velocity in your overview. They'll be some kilometers away. That's on everything that far away is on grid. Something has to be at least 150 meters from you, or kilometers, excuse me, for you to warp to it. You cannot warp to someone if they're only 80k away. Scanning, if it says I got him on scan, that just means he's on D-scan, your directional scanner, which I went over in the first video how to use that, where you can point it at different angle, put the angle down and point it at a specific thing to scan and see if something's there, different distances, process of elimination. Probe. A probe is, I talked about a little bit, it's an item you put in a probe launcher, which goes in your high slot. Some ships are bonus for them, and then you go to like a maps of the solar system, and you use your probe scanner, and you can track down wormholes, or with combat probes you can track down players' ships anywhere in space at a safe spot. Blah, blah. A safe spot, and go over that. That's when you warp between like two other objects, and as you're in warp, you drop a bookmark at random spot in space, and then you can warp to that spot from anywhere. And unless someone else probes you down, they can't get to that exact spot. It's very, very difficult, very time-consuming to try and do. It is possible, but warp off. When someone says warp off, that just means GTFO, get the fuck out. Warp off to anything. Just get off the grid. Get AU away from stuff. When you're scouting and you go through a gate, and you always give local, D-scan, and then gate status to the FC. So like I'm the scout, Bubba Joe's the FC. I get through the gate. He's like, what do you see? Well, there's 2 in local. I got nothing on D-scan, and the gate's clean. So now he knows there's 2 people in the system. There's nothing within 14 AU of the gate, and there's nothing on the gate. And there's nothing. So he knows he can bring his fleet in and move it about. Or I say, 35 in local, 6 on gate. There's 15 cruisers on scan, and he goes, oh shit, he's got to be more cautious about going there. So you always want to give those informations. That's local, scan, what's on gate, and you would tell him gate clean or gate clear. That just means there's nothing on the grid with the gate. Or you'd say like 100 off if they're like way off at 100 kilometers. There's like a frigate watching the gate. Spider tank. Spider tank means to take several ships like Dominic's. Usually they use drone boats because they don't use their high slots for guns. And they put remote repair. That's what a repper is, a repairer. And they sit there and put their drones out, and their drones are all shooting. And if anyone shoots one of the Dominics or Vexers or what, you can do it with whatever. I've seen Algos do it. I've seen Ventures do it. And once the person starts shooting one, all the other ones rep him, repair his damage, keep him alive. And they feed each other cap too, capacitor. That's the energy your ship uses to run modules. And since we're talking about that, we'll go ahead and talk about capacitor. They'll say like, is your ship cap stable? That means, can your ship run all of its, we'll do active and passive module. An active module is a module you turn on. A passive module does what it does all the time without you doing anything. It just has to be on your ship. When active modules use capacitors, such as your prop, your MWD, when you turn that on, it uses quite a bit of cap. Your point, or we didn't do point yet either, but your warp disruptor, warp scramblers, they use capacitor. Your repairers, some races use guns. If you use hybrid guns or lasers, they use capacitor to fire. If you get capped out, which means you've run out of cap, you can no longer fire until you get to the charges back up a little bit. When someone says like a cap, though, sometimes they mean a ship, like a capital ship. So that's one of those things that gets used twice. Sometimes people say, is it cap stable? That means does the capacitor run out when you're running all your mods? And the other one is a capital. If they say, oh, they've got 5 caps, they probably mean capital ships, not capacitors. Let's see. And active can mean, when someone says like active or passive, it can be like a module that you turn on or off, or you can mean tank. If you have a bunch of things to make your shield bigger, or a bunch of plates to make your armor bigger, but nothing that repairs them while you're in space, then you have a passive tank, or a buffer tank. It just means you have a bunch of HP. If you have a repairer, it means you have an active tank. You turn something on and it gives you your health back as you're fighting. That's like passive and active. BS or BC. If you hear someone say, oh, they got 5 BSs, battleships. BC is a battle cruiser. That's an easy one. Aggro. That just means someone has attacked. If or you're being attacked. If I say I got aggro and we're fighting a 10-on-10, that means most of those 10 people are shooting at me. I'm aggroed. They're all shooting at me. Or it can mean like I'm on a gate and there's me and another frigate, and I have a fleet on the other side, and that frigate starts shooting me because we're at war or whatever. Say he's a Mimitar guy in the Mimitar faction. I'm in Amar faction warfare, and we're fighting. I can tell my FC he's aggroed, and my FC knows that that guy cannot jump that gate. So it's just information that's needed. Or he can't escape. The whole fleet can now engage him on this side of the gate because he can't get away. I have him pointed, and a point. A point is when you use a warp disruptor or a warp scrambler, and you call out, like I'm in a frigate and I'm chasing down a cruiser, and the FC is like, catch him, and I'm like, I got point. That means that I just activated my warp disruptor within range, and he can no longer warp away. A warp scrambler stops MWDs from working as well, and it has 2 points. The actual point system, if you put a warp disruptor, it gives 1 point, and that means that it will stop ships from warping away, but if they have 1 stab, they can still warp. A scram has 2 points, which means they would need 2 warp core stabs to still warp away if they're scrammed. Also, a scram has much shorter range than a disruptor. A scram stops you from warping, but it also stops micro jump drives from activating, the little 100k jumps that BCs and battleships can do. It shuts those down, and it also shuts down micro warp drives. So that's a point. A point is just meaning you have someone, you've activated a disruptor or scram module and they can't warp off. Tackle just means that you've tackled somebody. Normally with like light tackle, frigate tackle, you're going to be scramming them so that they're dead in the water, they can't MWD or anything. But tackle just means that you've got point. I got tackle. That means I'm stopping his ship from getting away. We already talked about warp and jump. Take the warp just means there's an option when you're a fleet commander. You can warp your whole fleet with a single command. And usually after they do that, they'll say take the warp. That just is giving you the heads up that the fleet commander has issued a warp to the whole fleet. Align is just when you point your ship towards something, like there's a little here, I can actually show it real quick because I'm just about out of time here. Let me open that up. Align is like if I undock, if I'm in, say I'm in a big ass ship, you know, bigger than my pod obviously, but if I was in a battle cruiser or something like that, or a battleship, and my FC said align to Eredon Gate, see, there's Eredon, E-R-E-D-A-N, and I go up here, align to, and if you look at my little ship, this little arrow goes out, and now my ship is pointing perfectly at that. So that means that even if I was in a battleship, when it's done aligning, when it is perfectly aligned to that, which takes a few seconds, bigger the ship, the longer it takes, usually, it's the agility rating that decides how long it takes. Once I'm perfectly aligned to that, if I hit warp, I will enter warp instantly. So sometimes you'll be on a gate, FC will tell everyone align to the sun and burn. So it means you click on the little sun or that general direction, double click right next to it to turn your ship that way, and you burn, you turn on your prop mod, your MWD, micro warp drive, and your ship starts moving really fast, burning away from the gate, so that when people come through that gate, you're at range. Your FC is probably trying to create range, and they don't want your ships just starbursting out in every direction. He wants you all going in the same direction, so you're together, you can help each other. You can shoot at the same stuff. That sort of thing. Got that. Let's see. Bounce. When someone says bounce off of something, bounce off a sun, bounce off a asteroid belt, that just means warp somewhere else and then to a second place. It's just an in-between spot in warps. Don't warp directly from gate to gate. They tell you this in nullsec a lot because they have to line up bubbles. We won't get into the bubbles or anything, but there are these things that stop your warp, and if you touch them, you get stuck on them basically. I can get a lot more complex, but we're talking about low sec, so. But SCLC bounce, so you warp to a second point and then to that gate, and you'll dodge the bubble. That's essentially what it is. Bounce is just a point in between two warps that you're adding a second point to warp to before you go to the final point. SRP, if you ever hear people talk about SRP, that's ship replacement programs. Some of the huge nullsec groups will buy you new ships, especially like Logi. A lot of the repairing ships, because they're so valuable to a fleet and they're not really fun to fly, they're kind of hard. So when people, a lot of them will SRP. If your ship dies, your scimitar or whatever, you'll get a new one free. We don't do that because fuck that. You gotta make your own money in this corp. Buy your own shit. Hopefully I'll get some free. I'm begging for money now from people to help me provide some newbie ships for everybody. Blue or red. If someone says, oh, their gate's red, that means it's hostile. Or if they say there's 3 reds in local, that's 3 enemies. If they say, oh, they're blue with us, that means they're friends. When you make your standings on your corporation or your character or whatever, you can say, oh, this is my friend or this is my enemy. You can set them blue for friend or red for enemy. That's all that means. An alt. If someone says, oh, log on an alt, that means another character. Every account in EVE, you can have 3 characters. You should always have one at a trade hub like Jita. So you can buy all the stuff you need for your account. You just send it money from account to account, have that account buy all the supplies you need at the cheapest price in Jita, and then make a contract and send it to wherever, a courier contract, and send your stuff. Just make sure you know what you're doing so you don't give away all your stuff for free like an idiot. Bearing. When someone says he's a bear, he's bearing, it just means PvE. PvE just means player versus, I guess it's everything, but it's really just means you're out farming money. You're doing PvE, you're doing exploration or running missions or something like that, mining. That's bearing or PvE. Biomass means to just, if you go into your login screen, you can X and destroy your character, and it's called being biomassed. You destroy that clone, that character forever. Anom is just a place you can warp to. It's like just like those little plexes in the probe scanner. You see those little green things? Those are anomalies, and there's enemies to shoot there, like NPCs. You can pop a bunch of them, make some money. Some of them have escalations, which drop special items, stuff like that. And AWOX means to kill a friendly. It could be killing a person that your corp has set as allies. They're blue, and you kill them, you AWOXed. Or in faction warfare, if you shoot other group, other than another pilot that's in another corp who's also enlisted in the militia, you are AWOXing, and you'll probably make a lot of enemies like that. Catch some Mordex. Reps just means repair. I think we already talked about that. You can have reps on yourself. You can have like a mod in your low slot that repairs your armor, or you can have a repair in your high slot, and if you're in a Logi, ship like a augurer and repair another ship. Their bonus for armor repair, range, and amount. And I think that's just about all the lingo I wanted to go over. In other videos, I'll be talking about all the different guns and ships, because there's a lot of lingo with that, but I just want to do all the general lingos and a lot of the words, and so that when you're hearing stuff, you kind of have an idea, oh yeah, I remember what that means, or I don't know what the fuck that means, and you be able to find it. EVE University has a great little thing in their wiki. Their wiki's amazing, and it has a whole thing of lingo in there as well. I think that's just going to cut it for this episode, so hopefully this will help you. You can do a little more reading about EVE. Reddit has great stuff. There's EVE News 24 is a great EVE site. I like that. I like factionwarfare.com does articles about specifically faction warfare. Themitani.com is Goonswarm's news site for EVE Online and other games. And so hopefully when people are talking about these things, you remember some of these words and go, oh, that's what that means. Oh, okay. And you can follow the conversation better, because I know that's a real hard thing for new players. There's so much lingo in this game. And beyond that, there's a lot of words that are used twice. Like we talked about capital ship or a capacitor, or like Plex. Is it the little faction warfare thing you go inside, or the item you buy to get game time? Or like Newt. Oh, we didn't do that. Newt. It can be an energy neutralizer, which drains your capacitor, your cap, out of your ship. A lot of Amar and Blood Pirate ships have a bonus for newts, and newt range or newt amount, and they could, like a Balgorn's very scary battleship. Blood Pirates, it costs about $1 billion or something like that. They used to anyway. And then when they hit you with a large newt, man, they'll hit you at 60k and just suck your whole capacitor dry, and you're dead in space. You can't turn on your prop mod. You can't shoot your lasers, whatever. They can be scary. But if someone says there's 2 newts in local, that means they're neutral players. They're people who are not friend or enemy, so they're potentially hostile. 5 newts in local, whatever, gate's clean. That's like something you hear a scout say. You're just giving the FC no. There's 5 people in the local, and they're we don't know who they are. They're not friends or enemies, but assume they're enemies usually. Okay, so yeah, that's that. And episode 3, I'm not even sure what I'm doing yet. Like I said, I want to get into the races and the guns and stuff like that. I might do that next. But I got some friends waiting on me, so I'm going to go say hi to them. I love you, and goodbye. And if you're looking for a corp, I Want Alpha is recruiting. I'm Dr. Barmitzvah. I love you. Good night. Ugh.